So today we're going to look in chapter 8 of 1 Kings. And 1 Kings is pretty much an entire chapter about the temple of the Lord. And it's pretty much Solomon talking the whole time. And if we see what happened in the end of chapter 1, in 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 51, the first part, it says this: "So all the work that King Solomon had done for the house of the Lord was finished." So the temple's finally built, and it's ready to be used. And so it's time for God's people to start using the house of the Lord. And much of chapter 8 is just Solomon talking. He's either praying or speaking a blessing, or he's dedicating the people to the temple. And near the end, in verse 61, this is God's word translation, it says this, and there's two underlined words we'll all read together. It says, May your hearts be to the Lord our God. You will live by his laws and keep his commands as you have today. So, in the last series, Guardians of the Family, we talked about another verse from Solomon was Proverbs 4:23, which is, above all else, guard your heart. And the best way to guard your heart against bad things is to commit your heart to the Lord. Notice I didn't say the best way to guard your heart against bad things is to commit your heart to good things. Because lots of people commit their lives to good things, but that still leaves them powerless in their sin and unable to escape. Okay? How many of you know those people? They're always like, they did the ice bucket challenge, for ALS. They're always running a 5K somewhere. They're hitting you up for jump rope for hard at work, right? There's always something they're up to that's good, but it doesn't get them out of their sin. So you can't just, in order to guard against bad, you can't just commit to good. You have to commit to the Lord, because every good and perfect gift comes from him. And if you just commit to good, you'll find yourself stuck in sin, no matter how good it is. Everyone seems, in our world today, seems to be looking for a secret formula. And advertisers, I believe, cater to that. And they're always peddling secrets. If you watch infomercials, there's so many secrets out there. Now tell me, if you pay $19.99 and they tell you the secret, how much of a secret is it? Okay? But never mind that. I've seen so many things out there, financial secrets and books to financial success, things you didn't know, right? The only secret peddling thing that Michelle and I have ever purchased, and I believe that I'll vouch for this one, it's Top Secret Recipes. It's a cookbook. If you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh, this is so good. I wish I could make this at home, right? You buy this book, and it tells you how to make this stuff at your house. And it works, okay? So it will tell you how to make KFC coleslaw, okay? And I want you to buy the book this week and figure it out and bring it next Sunday to the potluck. But for the most part, all of these secrets that the advertisers are peddling to you, they're kind of specious. They're not real secrets. But here's the thing. Most of the things in the Bible are not secret. Yes, there's prophecies about, the end times. But most of the things in this are about practical, everyday living, and they're not secrets. And you can see here, commit your heart to the Lord, then you will live by his laws. That's not a secret, right? That's just a pretty straightforward formula. Mark Twain said, it ain't the parts of the Bible I don't know that bother me. It's the parts I do understand, right? So this passage is real straightforward. If your heart is committed to the Lord, then you will live by his laws. Pretty straightforward. If your heart isn't into something, you will be increasingly frustrated by the lack of power to live the way that you really want to live. So I'll give you the premise of today's message. It's pretty much this. Your commitment has to be stronger than your weaknesses. That's pretty much it. Whatever your commitments are. Let's say you're committed to school or work, or you're committed to finishing school. That commitment has to be stronger than your weakness to be lazy or to stop something halfway through. Be non-committed. So if you're committed to living debt-free, that commitment has to be stronger than your weakness to buy new things on credit. Pretty straightforward, right? And in order to live a successful life, in order to overcome your weaknesses, you'll have to have increased levels of commitment to the Lord as long as you live. And your commitment has to be stronger, especially in areas where you are weak. So we're going to look at some common areas of weakness that I see in our culture. And the Bible says that we're in the world, but not of it, right? But the way I think about that verse is like, yes, we're in the world, but not of it. But try walking through a car wash and staying dry. Okay? We're in this world, but there's so much of it that just sticks to us and clings to us. And it's hard to navigate in this world. So we're going to look at some things that I know our world struggles with, and I think sometimes as believers, we also struggle with. So we're going to pick up on your commitment has to be stronger than preferences. And I want to say thank you again. Thank you for being committed to the work here at Clinton Valley, because that means that your commitment is stronger than your preferences. And our preferences in this culture are very, very strong. It's another thing that advertisers do is they cater to that. We have strong preferences. Burger King's slogan is, yeah, have it your way. So these preferences, the culture caters to. And then we come in sometimes with that mindset into church. And preferences can't always be met, can they? They can't even be met all the time in marriage. Husbands and wives, tell me that all of your preferences are being met all the time in your marriage. Okay, this isn't a time to do one of these. Like, you paying attention? I'm going to get a CD of this one. Okay, so, right, it's not a time to, okay. But my point is that this is a person that you've pledged your life to live until you die, okay? And even in this relationship, our preferences aren't always met, right? Mine are. But for my wife, unfortunately, they're not always met. They're not always met. Now, I look at the idea of your commitment and preferences is a zero-sum game. And if you don't know what that is, let's imagine it's a teeter-totter, right? So if this thing is all the way down, this one's all the way up, right? And if this side's all the way down, this side's all the way up, okay? So imagine this being 100% and this is 0, okay? So if you have very high preferences, your commitment is going to be very low because you're going to be looking for these preferences to be met and the commitment doesn't matter. Okay? And if you have a really high commitment level, your preferences will be low because all of the things that come your way, you're going, no, I'm committed. I'm committed to this thing. It doesn't matter that sometimes my preferences aren't always met. Does that make sense? So, in my opinion, too many churches are torn apart by people whose commitment is not as strong as their preferences. Right? I want this. I want that. Well, here's my preference. I want God to move in this church. And I want God to change hearts and transform minds. Right? That's what I'm committed to. And my prayer today is that my commitment is stronger than my preferences. Because everybody has a preference. Everybody has song preferences. Even temperature preferences. Right? Nobody told me it was going to be this cold. Now I need a shawl. Okay, so that's a good problem, okay? You can always bring extra clothes, but when you start taking them off, we got an issue. Okay, so your commitment, this is something that our culture is really battling with, and we are in this culture. We try not to be of it, but one thing I know is we have to have a commitment level that is stronger than lust. As a church, we have to talk about stuff like this. And in my opinion, the church has been unwilling to talk about this. And guess what? Because the church has been unwilling to talk about it, it doesn't mean the world stopped talking about it. They're carrying on a discussion right now. And this discussion is descending into chaos, where pronouns are just, okay? Anyway, there's so much chaos out there where it makes no sense. And if the church is silent, if we're silent about it, it will be devastating. We can't afford to be silent on this stuff anymore. And the statistics on people who are identifying themselves as Christians that engage in pornography is over half for men. It's a very high percentage. So Jesus, when his disciples were falling asleep, he said this in Matthew 26:41. He said, "Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." So here's some things, and I know that I'm talking to different people groups in here, and there's people in this stage and that stage in life, but if this doesn't apply directly to you, pray for the people in our church that it does, okay? So if you are not conquering lust before marriage, then you will not conquer lust after marriage. That's a fact. See, in high school, when I came to faith in Christ, I thought all of this lust nonsense would go away once I become married. But let me just tell you something. Marriage will not break your addiction to pornography. If you were looking at pornography before you got married, you're going to look at it after. Guess what? Newsflash. The internet is still on when you get married. Okay? Some of us got married before the internet came on, right? Life was good. Okay? So, marriage will not break your tendency to have a rogue, lustful thought. It won't. And marriage, in fact, raises the stakes of your commitment. Commitment is what you have when you just don't feel like loving that person right at that moment. Or worse, when you're angry at them. That's when your commitment level should be the strongest. See, because it's easy to be committed to someone or something when everything's going smooth. And marriage is a commitment, but you have to be committed now, young people or people who aren't married. You got to be committed now before you even enter into marriage. You got to be committed to purity now because it's not going to get easier. Let me read to you a hymn of marriage. And this thing is so beautiful. Maybe you've heard it before, but it says this. Is there anything more beautiful in life than a boy and girl clasping clean hands and pure hearts on the path to marriage? And the answer is given. Yes, there is a more beautiful thing. It is the spectacle of an old man and an old woman finishing their journey together on that path. Their hands are gnarled but still clasped. Their faces are seamed but still radiant. Their hearts are tired and bowed down but still strong. They have proved the happiness of marriage and have vindicated it from jeers of cynics. This is what we want deep down. It is something that will last and something that will matter in our lives. And if you want that, then your commitment has to be stronger than those lusts of the flesh that come up in your life. Now, as far as I know, like Amazon and Google and all these tech companies, they haven't created a robot to replace a preacher yet, but I'm sure it's coming, okay? You can just type in all the things you want it to tell you, okay? But I'm made of flesh and blood. Okay? And until Robo Preacher 3000 stands here and preaches at you, okay? I am in this fight with you. Okay? I am made of flesh and blood. I'm not immune to any of this stuff. And that's why you have to be accountable and you have to let people know. David, King David in the Bible, he struggled with lust. And I think that he probably made this comment after he fell with Bathsheba when he saw that woman bathing down from the palace rooftop. He says this in Psalm 101:3. He says, "I will not put anything wicked in front of my eyes. I hate what unfaithful people do. I want no part of it." Now, when it comes to this issue, if you have no plan, plan on failing. Okay? And I can't tell you, you can't text me or call me or come see me after or email me and you can't say, "Hey, what's my plan?" I don't know your plan because I don't know anything specific to your life. And even if I did, I might not be able to give you a plan. But what I can do is give you a strategy that David had in this verse. Okay? So I'm just going to take this verse and we're going to make a strategy out of it. So if you watch, it's still the same words, okay? And it's basically, because I want no part of what? Pornography, adultery, okay? You don't want to be engaged in any of that stuff. And I hate, what does unfaithful people do? They ruin relationships. They create unrealistic expectations on people. They break up families. All of these things, right? Let alone hurts God. and creates a void between you and God that if you don't fix that, it leads you to hell. And because of those things, therefore, I will not put anything wicked in front of my eyes. See, that's a strategy. So you figure out what those things are. Write it out, figure it out, and live that out in your life. Now, in our culture, there seems to be increasing levels of anger. Isn't there? And your commitment has to be stronger than anger. And I believe one of Paul's letters to Timothy talks about in the last days, at the end of the days, just people are more and more violent. And there's just so much anger. You know, not too long ago, I read that somebody got shorted chicken nuggets at McDonald's, and they pulled a gun. Okay? Listen, so we're in the world, but not of it. So we got to navigate through that. Let's listen to what James has to say about anger. And James chapter 1, verses 19 through 22. It says, and there's 5 underlined words on the next slide, but it says this: remember this, my brothers, my dear brothers and sisters. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and should not get angry easily. An angry person doesn't do what God approves of. So get rid of all immoral behavior and all the wicked things you do. Humbly accept the word that God has placed in you. This word can save you. This word can save you. Do what God's word says. Don't merely listen to it, or you will fool yourselves. I can tell you firsthand that this word can save you. It can save you. It can save not just your soul for all eternity, right? A lot of times we don't even contemplate eternity or heaven or how great it's going to be because we're just trying to live life, right? Just tell me how to get to next week. I don't want to talk about eternity, right? Tell me how to pay this coming up bill. But if you think about it, yes, God is going to save us, but he can save you in this life too. See, this word can save your relationships. This word can save your money. Read Proverbs. Read it. Do what it says and you will save money. This word can save you from engaging and becoming enslaved. It can give you freedom. This word can save you time and a lot of heartache in life. Amen? Now here's what I know. Things get broken when you're angry. Easier said, anger breaks things, right? I know this as a middle schooler and high schooler in the video game age. Anger breaks game controllers. Right? Now, when I was young, the game controller was wired, and if you broke it, it was like $9. You know, some of these things are wireless, and they're like $70. I'm going to tell you something. Wireless controllers, they can go a long way if you throw them. Mine were wired. But I've seen that happen. How many of you have seen, maybe you have a grandkid or a nephew, or you've even seen people outside of high school break a game controller, a video game controller? Okay? It breaks stuff. Anger can break up relationships. Anger breaks the law. Anger breaks down your self-control, and that affects everything in your life. And Ephesians 4:31 says, get rid of your bitterness, hot tempers, anger, loud quarreling, cursing, and hatred. So, with that said, I want to make a confession to you. On Father's Day, guard your hearts. The message was guard your heart. And one of the points was, because our children look to us to see what God is like, as a father is to his son, so God is to us, right? So the point was, guard your heart against unchecked emotions, okay? So after church on Father's Day, we all had a get-together at our house, and everything's going great. Now, this is all my nephews, and on both sides, so my wife's side and my side, and we have a pool. And by the way, we did not get the pool since I became the senior pastor. It was there when we bought the house, okay? So thank you for giving. But I looked out, And we have this basketball rim that's made out of metal, and there's it's sitting on a little platform at the edge of the pool, and there's a cinder block that kind of keeps it steady. And I looked out, and it's face in the bottom of the pool, and the cinder block has now fallen in the fiberglass pool. Okay, so the word on the street is that someone tried to dunk. Okay, so I went out there, and I went to the edge of the pool, and I saw the base of it. So I leaned down and I pulled it out, and then I picked it up, right? And then I went to the edge of the pool and I threw it. I threw it off outside of the pool area, right? And then I walked back in the house. So all the nephews caught okay? Went back in the house, sat down on the couch, okay? And my dad gave that smirk that all parents give when they know they're right about something. When you're like, yeah, I'm going to get my own place. And they make that smirk. That's going to be awesome. I'm happy for you, right? You all know that smirk because you either gave it or got it, right? So he gave me this smirk and said, are we guarding our hearts against unchecked emotions? Listen, thank God that people pay attention to the messages, right? If there were ever time for you to be fooling with your phone, so that would have been it. But here's the thing. I can say that story in a flippant way, and I can make it funny. But the bottom line is, I was a jerk. I picked this thing up like the Incredible Hulk and threw it, and I could have broke it. And I wasn't the Incredible Hulk because I'm not that incredible. I'm definitely not that hulky. I'm more like the impetulant jerk. The Incredible Hulk is green. I'm kind of yellow. So my thing is I want to look more like Jesus every day. And yes, I'm so much further than where I first came to Christ. But I want things like that to be totally out of character for me for the foreseeable future, as long as I'm alive. And I want you to follow me as I follow Christ. And sometimes I joke with my kids that don't follow me if I'm not following Christ. But you know what I mean. And it made me sad, And I'll tell you something honestly. The next day, my stomach hurt. I couldn't figure out what the problem. I pulled a muscle, okay? That's what I get. So, like I said, I'm not telling you that story to be flippant about it, but I want to be closer to Jesus. And, if people know you as always being sinfully angry, then you have a problem that we're going to pray about today, okay? Now, anger doesn't always mean hitting or punching or yelling or screaming, right? There's two kinds of anger. There's active anger, right? Those people are easy to spot, okay? The guy at McDonald's with the gun, I believe we have an active person who's actively angry, right? But the passive anger, which isn't so easy to spot, but it's just as sinful and just as harmful. It's the people, just got a notification that it's so-and-so's birthday on Facebook, but I'm not wishing them a happy birthday. I'm mad at them, right? Or you go out of your way to ignore someone, or you change your normal routine just to irritate someone, right? I'm leaving the cap off the toothpaste because they hate that. That's the same spirit is there as in the yelling guy. And I can tell you this, Michelle and I, we complete each other, because I'm this kind of anger, like, hey, what happened to the thermostat? Who touched it? And when I say who touched the thermostat, I'm not upset because someone notched it down a couple of notches and kicked on the air. I'm saying that because it's missing off the wall. That's a fact. You can ask Michelle, we had to go buy another one. What? Okay. So there's two kinds of anger, right? This kind, and we complete each other because there's this kind of anger and then there's this kind. Oh, she's making that face right now. That's it right there. Oh, wait, you know what? We don't complete each other. We don't. Never mind. Just let me just take this right out of there. Yeah. So here's the bottom line. My commitment is to show the love of Jesus above any weakness to succumb to my anger, okay? And you need to have the same commitment, whatever it is. And one thing that I know that our culture struggles with is pride. You know, all of June is all about pride. Proverbs 16:5 says that God rejects prideful people and he punishes them. And I don't want to be part of God's rejection or punishment. And pride keeps us from enjoying life. Pride causes us, I don't know if you know this, but pride causes you to worry about stuff. You worry about everything. See, C.S. Lewis, I'm paraphrasing here, but C.S. Lewis said this: pride doesn't care how much you have. It only cares how much more you have than someone else. That's pride. Pride causes you to constantly make unnecessary comparisons with other people. It does. And it causes you to miss out on stuff that you normally would love to do. I don't know, maybe some of you have been older in marriage. Remember that first year of marriage where I bet there's a story or two where you didn't go to the restaurant because your pride wouldn't let you because you were upset about something. And I don't care. It's my favorite restaurant and we're not going, right? So that's just someone told me that. It doesn't apply to my marriage, but I looked that up for an illustration. So pride, if I can explain it this way, pride is like an anchor that's chained to your ankle that you have the key to open, but you have to kneel down to open it. You have to humble yourself to open it. And so many people are unwilling to kneel down to take this chain off of their life that wrecks everything. So, your commitment to being a humble servant of Jesus has to be stronger. Actually, I won't even say your, I'll say my. That way no one's offended, okay? My commitment to being a humble servant of Jesus has to be greater than my weakness to be a prideful, petty jerk, okay? So you were just listening in on that. That didn't apply to you. But if it does, then take it. Next, your commitment has to be stronger than peer pressure. Now, when is the last time in the adult service you heard the term peer pressure, right? I've been a youth pastor for a while, and we use the term all the time. But here's the deal. The word still applies because you have peers. You have coworkers, you have neighbors, you have friends. It fits for adults. It's just not a term we use very often. And there's two kinds of peer pressure. There's pressure to do the wrong thing, and there's pressure to not do the right thing. So here's a verse on pressuring to do the wrong thing. Proverbs 1:10. My son, if sinners lure you, do not go along. Do not go along. And then we also experience pressure where we're at a lot of times in the workplace to not do the right thing as well. In Acts chapter 5, verses 27 through 29, the apostles all are arrested and they say, do not speak about Jesus anymore. No more. And that's pressure to not do the right thing. And you know what they said? We must obey God rather than men. How many of you would like that kind of courage in your life? Now, here's the thing about that courage. If you are prideful and angry and all these other things at work, and you act this way about, doing this thing, you will have no credibility. People will not believe you. You'll be a joke. When Mother Teresa came to the United States and gave this, she just ripped Congress about their stance on life. And everybody slouched in their chairs and you could hear a pin drop if you ever see or read that speech. Because here's someone who could walk the talk and she backed it up. And so when she said stuff, when you have this attitude at work, you better be living righteously because people will respect it, but they won't respect it if you're failing in all these other areas. So there's so many things that challenge our commitment to the Lord. And even if I didn't discuss a specific weakness in your life, your commitment to serving Christ has to be stronger than whatever your weaknesses are. You could have envy or maybe rebellion, greed, laziness. We all have areas where we're weaker than other people in, don't we? We look down on people who we don't have that weakness. Would you want to marry someone who isn't 100% committed to you? Right? Baby, I'm 98% committed. Every 100 women that go by, 98, I'll let them go. Okay. Would you want to be in a band where no one's committed to practice? Would you go pay tickets to listen to a band where nobody's committed to practice? Would you take a job where a boss isn't committed to paying you? Would you undergo surgery from a doctor who isn't committed to your safety? Commitment matters. And your decision to commit begins right now. Right now. See, not when your weakness approaches. See, right now, it's okay. But then right outside these doors, you're going to jump back into this world again, okay? And things are going to come at you. So you commit now. We're going to take a moment to pray and commit now, not when your weakness approaches you. And let's look to the Master this morning. Let's look to Jesus. In Hebrews 12, verse 2, we're going to look at his commitment. It says, we must focus on Jesus, the source and goal of our faith. He saw the joy ahead of him, so he endured the death on the cross and ignored the disgrace it brought him. So think about this. This crowd, Jesus is on the cross. This crowd is, get down from there. You say you're God? You're on a cross. He ignored all those people, and he looked down through the generations to see you. And that brought him joy. That brought him joy to see you. That's awesome. So 2 final questions here as we close. The first question is, who are you committed to? What's your commitment to? And the second is your commitment stronger than your weakness? If you are committed to the Lord, is it stronger than your weakness? Have you committed your heart to the Lord? Have you committed your life to the Lord? You have to decide now to make this commitment, right now, not in your moment of weakness. By then, it'll be too late. And I'm going to close with 2 verses from both from Psalms, and see if you catch a reoccurring idea in these verses. And there's some underlined words. It says, listen to my voice in the Lord. Each I bring my request to you, and I wait expectantly. And this next one says, but as for me, I will sing about your power. Each I will sing with joy about your unfailing love. For you have been a refuge, a place of safety when I am in distress. So as I close, we're going to close in song. And I would like the people who normally pray to come up, who are our prayer people, to come up. Because here's the thing. All of us have different schedules, but what you can see in there is that at the beginning of your day, you should be making the decision, this commitment. It happens every morning. Whenever you wake up, you say, Lord, I'm going to commit my life fresh and anew to you today. That's how that works. You don't win by being halfway in. You're not going to get a victory in your life by accident. That doesn't happen, you know. Nobody knocks on your door, hey, we won. Oh, we did? Okay. You know, that's not how that works. You're not going to get a victory by being halfway in. So I'm going to sing over here, and I would like the people who normally pray to come up.